Hello everyone, it's Fiona here from TLC Crochet Designs. I'm going to be guiding you through creating a basic single crochet stitch today, which is in US terms. I'm going to break it down step by step, making sure it's clear and easy to follow, perfect for if you're just starting out. When I was first learning how to crochet, I found it a lot easier to learn on a chunky yarn and with a bigger crochet hook, which is why I'm going to recommend you do the same. For this tutorial, I'm going to use Andy's chunky yarn, which recommends a 9mm hook. However, I prefer my stitches to be a little bit tighter, so I'm going to drop down my crochet hook size to 7mm. This one is by Furls Crochet. Along with your yarn and crochet hook, you're going to need some stitch markers, darning needle, and a little pair of scissors as well. And that's it. So first, I'm going to show you how to hold your yarn. There are different ways to do this, and normally the first way you learn is the way that you're going to continue. With your palm facing up the way, you're going to bring your yarn end up and over your pinky and wrap it round almost like a full circle. You're then going to bring the yarn over your palm of your hand and put it in between your middle and forefinger, bringing it to the back of your hand. I'm going to show you that again. So wrap round your pinky, bring the yarn up in between your middle and forefinger, turn your hand over and pull your yarn through. From here, we are going to create your slip knot to create your foundation chain. So from here, you're going to get your working yarn and bring it up over your thumb and round, and then pull the loop off your thumb. So the yarn should be crossed. Just going to show you that again in slow motion. Once you have your loop, you are going to put your hook through the hole and hook onto the working yarn end, pulling through a loop. This is the slip knot and the first loop to your chain stitch. In order to tighten it up, put your crochet hook back through the loop and pull on your working yarn. We're now going to do a foundation chain of 11 stitches. So in order to do that, you're going to have your hook and yarn over, which is simply just bringing the yarn over your hook. You're then going to pull the working yarn through your loop to bring up another loop. And we're going to repeat this until we've got 11 chain stitches. So we're going to yarn over and pull the working yarn through the loop. So again, yarn over and pull through. Your right hand is going to be anchoring the chain stitches that you've got. So every time you do a stitch, you're going to want to move your fingers up a little bit more just to hold that stitch in place. The more confident you get, the less times you'll need to do this. So you could probably do it a few times without having to move your hands up with the more practice that you do. So just keep going with your chain stitches until you've done a total of 11. So you're going to count to make sure you've done 11 stitches. Now that you've done your 11 foundation chain stitches, we're going to start with single crochet. So in order to do this, you are going to start on the second loop away from your hook. If you read that in the pattern and think, I have no idea what that means, I'm going to tell you just now. So the loop on your hook does not count when you're counting your loops. The first loop away from your hook is the 11th chain stitch that you created, and the second loop from your hook is the 10th chain stitch that you made. This is a loop that you're going to create your first single crochet through. So insert your hook through this loop, and then you're going to yarn over and bring through a loop. You will have 2 loops on your hook. You're then going to yarn over again and pull this loop through the 2 loops on your hook. And that is you created your first single crochet. You're then going to create your next single crochet in the next loop of your chain. So again, you're going to put your hook through this loop, yarn over and pull through a loop. You'll have 2 loops on your hook. You're going to yarn over again and pull that through the 2 loops. So you'll have 1 loop on your hook, and that is your second single crochet completed. You're going to continue on doing this through each loop of your chain stitch, and you'll end up with 10 stitches at the end. Once you've completed your 10th single crochet, you are simply going to chain 1. So you are going to yarn over and pull through a loop. You will do this at the end of every row, as this is your turning chain. Once you've done that, you are going to turn your work. You're now going to do the first single crochet of your next row. In order to do this, you're going to put your hook through the front and back loop of the previous single crochet that you've just created, not the turning chain. You're then going to yarn over and pull through a loop. Yarn over again and pull through the 2 loops that were on your hook, and you're just creating the same single crochet that you did the first time round, but through the front and back loop of every stitch from the previous round. Once you've done 1 or 2 stitches, you'll want to mark off your first stitch of that round to keep you right of where that first stitch actually is. I'm going to recommend that you actually mark off the turning chain you created instead of the front and back loop of that stitch, and I'll explain why shortly. You're now going to continue back on with your single crochet through each stitch of your previous round. Once you've got to your last single crochet of this round again, you are going to finish it as before, and again chain 1 to have as your turning chain. You're then going to turn your work. You're then going to complete your first single crochet of this round, and again you're going to put in your stitch marker in the turning chain prior to that stitch. Again, I will explain at the end of this row why we've done that. Continue on with your single crochet to the end of this round. I would recommend when you're starting to learn how to crochet that you count each stitch when you get to the end of the row to make sure that you've still got the same amount. So I'm just about to go on to my 10th and final stitch of this round. What I'm going to recommend you do is alter this last stitch slightly so that the ends of your project have a nice, neat and straight appearance. So what you can do if you don't want to do this change is just do a normal single crochet through the front and back loop as normal, and then you would do your turning chain, turn your work and continue on. But what I'm going to recommend is a little bit different. So you would insert your hook through the front and back loop as normal, but then you would also insert it through the turning chain that you've marked off. So you would have the front and back loop and the turning chain all on your hook. You then yarn over and pull through a loop, and then you'll be back to normal with having the 2 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through 2. By doing this one little change, you're going to have a much nicer and neater looking item. After this stitch, you are going to chain 1 as normal and turn your work. You will then continue doing your single crochet as normal through the front and back loop of each stitch until you get to the other side. Again, mark off that turning chain with your marker so that you know where it is for next time. If you don't want to do it that way and just want to do the front and back loop, mark off the front and back loop. Once you've got to your last stitch again of this round, you're just going to complete it the way you did before. So put your hook through the front and back loop, and then you're going up through your turning chain with your hook, yarning over, pulling through your loop, and then yarning over again and pulling through 2. Chain 1 and then turn. I'm going to do 2 more rows and then we're going to stop there and I'll show you how to weave in your ends. Feel free to keep going and do as many rows as you want, and do it again, just do it as much as you want just to have practice and get used to doing this simple stitch. So now you've got to the end of your sample piece, you're just going to double check your stitch count. So you should have 10 stitches in total, and I have completed 6 full rows here. So the last thing we're going to do is weave in the tail. With the loop from your very last stitch, you're going to cut a tail from the working yarn and then pull that straight through your last single crochet stitch. Grab your darning needle and thread the tail through. If you have a back piece to the project that you're working on, this is the side that you want to weave in your tail, not the side to the front. But as this is just a sample piece, it doesn't really matter which side you want to practice on. Bring your needle under 2 or 3 of the yarn loops that you can see, a couple of times one way and then a couple of times back the way again. Cut the tail close to the end, but make sure you don't snip the yarn of your project when you're doing this. You'll then repeat this process with the tail that you got at the start of your project as well. And that is it. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial and found it to be helpful. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to my page. Bye!